If true, this changes everything for the New York Jets as the NFL draft is taking a wild turn with new players who nobody expected to be available at the New York Jets 7th overall pick now look like a real opportunity for the Jets. Meanwhile, trade talks still loom large for the Jets as many things can still happen just 2 hours away from the NFL draft beginning. What's up, guys? Welcome back to Jets Digest. It's Chris here, and we are in crunch time for the NFL draft. Things are about to kick off very soon, and rumors are doing anything but cooling down as things continue to get hotter and hotter. And now, with new projections out there, there is a lot to go over, and let's jump right into it, guys. Look, if you're part of that 67% that's not subscribed to Jets Digest, this is the place to be. We're covering everything on the New York draft, every selection, every move the New York Jets make, anything that would impact the New York Jets. There will be a video on from either myself, Matt, or both of us. The second the pick comes out, Matt will have a video up within 15 minutes of that selection, if not sooner. You guys do not want to miss out on all the great content that we have coming your way. But let's jump into this. We have a lot to discuss. Look, where things stand right now, a lot is going on with the New York Jets and the NFL draft, as there's been a bunch of talk about who the Jets pick could be. We recently went over a few of the names that seem like the three most likely selections, but now things have taken another turn. And if this happens, this changes everything, as the New York Jets would look in a completely separate direction at new targets who nobody expected to end up on the Jets' radar whatsoever. So let's take a look at what was mentioned by Jets insider Rich Cimini, who said, if the Las Vegas Raiders take Calvin Banks or Armand Membo, Mason Graham becomes available to the New York Jets, assuming the Jacksonville Jaguars do take Ashton Jeanty like it's expected. Interesting situation. He's a terrific prospect, and the Jets could use a dynamic defensive tackle to pair with Quinnen Williams. However, Cimini says he has a hunch the New York Jets would go in another direction. Look, I'm not going to discredit Rich Cimini at all. I'm not trying to do that whatsoever. But if Mason Graham is available for the New York Jets at 7, I do believe they'd take him. And I think it is a no-brainer to take Mason Graham right here. You kidding me? Mason Graham is a top 5 talent. Hell, he's a top 3 talent to most people within NFL circles right now. When you look at what the NFL draft big boards look like, at the top of every single big board is the same top 2. Number 1, the two-way superstar Travis Hunter. Number 2, Abdul Carter. Those sirens out there are because these rumors are getting real hot right now that there's nearly a 5-alarm fire going on. Yes, it's kind of annoying that I'm sorry that this is happening, but this is what happens when you live in Manhattan, not in Midtown. So what are you going to do? At the end of the day, where things stand right now for the New York Jets, Mason Graham very likely could find himself available to the Jets, which nobody saw coming. Now look, in 3 years at college for Mason Graham, he was phenomenal. One of the best run blockers that we could possibly find. On top of that, great every year, had 23 tackles, well, 23 solo tackles, 22 assisted tackles last season, 45, which is incredible in 12 games. On top of that, 36 last year. He consistently climbed. Finished this season with 3.5 sacks. 7 tackles for loss. He's a defensive tackle who's a run stopper more than anything else, but this man is a bulldog you do not want to get in front of. Mason Graham projects to be a future superstar defensive tackle. If you get a chance to draft Mason Graham, you draft Mason Graham if you're 7th overall. That is a steal for where he is projected to be going right now. The New York Jets have to make this move. It is imperative that if you have the chance to draft Mason Graham, you do. However, Cimini said he could see them going in another direction. And he also mentioned that what's all this late Jalon Walker buzz about? There's been a lot, especially with his scheme versatility, but it's always a little fishy when the late mock drafts come up with a new choice for a team. In the end, Cimini does believe the Jets will lean offense over defense. Now, again, I think in regards to Mason Graham, you do whatever it takes to make Mason Graham a New York Jet, which essentially means if you have the 7th overall pick and Mason Graham's available, you draft him. However, in regards here to Jalon Walker, Walker is someone who a lot of teams are interested in, namely teams in the NFC South. There's 3 teams picking very close together in the NFC South, and the Panthers followed right up by the Saints, and then the Atlanta Falcons are soon after them. The Falcons, Saints, and Panthers all need pass rushing. They need an edge rusher. Jalon Walker, one of the best edge rushers in the class, getting a lot of Micah Parsons comparisons. Jalon Walker's versatile. He's not a defensive end. He is a linebacker edge rusher, so he is more versatile. He is a freak athlete. He's an incredible talent. Now, look, if the Jets draft him, I'd be a little bit kind of like, I mean, really? Is that what we needed? Would kind of be my reaction if I'm being honest. You would move Will McDonald or Jermaine Johnson to a defensive tackle spot, have Walker on the outside. I just feel like it'd be kind of a redundant pick, and I understand that I'm really pushing for offensive tackles here, and mind you, the Jets drafted one last year, but you need 2 of them. The Jets already have 2 edge rushers who they spent first-round picks on, so let's hold off on maybe doing that just 3 years later when you got 2 very promising young edge rushers in Will McDonald and Jermaine Johnson. Do I think the Jets will draft Jalon Walker? No, not really. However, I will say this. Mougey and co. did not draft Johnson or McDonald, which makes them more likely to draft him. And more importantly, I don't think the Jets would draft him at 7th overall. However, the Atlanta Falcons, maybe they would. The Falcons want to trade up because they don't want to be having the 3rd pick behind 2 teams in their conference or in their division that they're going to have to face twice a season with a guy in Jalon Walker who it's known the Falcons want him. They're not going to land him where they stand right now, so they would have to trade up. The New York Jets are a prime team to do that, to jump in front of the Panthers and get Jalon Walker on their roster. Now, again, if Mason Graham's available, one of those teams will draft Mason Graham. Maybe the Falcons would try to trade up with the Jets to land Mason Graham. That's all possible. There's been a lot of talk about trading up, and Rich Cimini discussed that as well. Now, we'll get into that in 1 second, but just to look at what what Jalon Walker was able to do in college. He was phenomenal. First year there as a freshman, he won a championship, a national championship with Georgia. Didn't play a ton. In his final 2 years in college, he got more burn. Last season had 6.5 sacks in 14 games played. Had 37 tackles, 23 assisted, total of 60 tackles. Great job there by Jalon Walker with 11 tackles for loss. He had a phenomenal season. Belongs in the top 10 of this NFL draft, and be shocking if he didn't go there. And with Cimini talking about people wanting to trade up and the New York Jets still looking to trade down, he did mention that I wouldn't be surprised if they trade down a few spots, as Cimini said. As I've been saying for a while, that could hinge on Ashton Jeanty being available. He's the hot guy. Hello. And there could be some teams below the Jets, like Chicago or Dallas, that covet him. Well, we know already that the Chicago Bears are trying to trade up, and they want Ashton Jeanty. The Dallas Cowboys could also show interest in Ashton Jeanty as well. But right now, where we stand, we know the Bears like him. We know the Jacksonville Jaguars like him. And if he's available at number 7 with the Jets, it's unlikely the Jets would take him. It's more likely they would trade out of that spot so a team can pick up Jeanty and the Jets can target someone else. And there has been someone else who the New York Jets have shown interest in. Now, in regards to Jeanty, the man, was just one of the best players in college football. Led his conference in rushing yards twice and, literally doubled his rushing yards from 2023 to 2024. It's absolutely absurd what Jeanty was able to do. In 374 attempts last year, he had 2,601 yards, had 29 rushing touchdowns. Man was absurd at 185.8 yards per game. One of the generational running back prospects that you see every few years, and because of that reason, he's been often hailed as a guy who's a top 10 pick, even though running backs are usually not viewed as that valuable. Ashton Jeanty's viewed as a game changer, a guy who could be at the level of the Christian McCaffreys and Saquon Barkleys of the world that belong to kind of break that mold. 30 scrimmage touchdowns where he just had over 2,700 yards. Just an absolutely absurd season by Jeanty. And with the New York Jets not having interest because they do have multiple different running backs, and there has been Breece Hall trade talks. However, where things stand right now, they have a great running back in Breece Hall who's still on the team, and Braylon Allen and Isaiah Davis, not to mention Justin Fields will be running the ball a lot. The Jets likely would not aim at Jeanty. They'd most likely trade away. And there has been a guy in Jahdae Barron that they do like, who they could trade down for theoretically. Now, as we see, the Miami Dolphins were projected to pick him by ESPN, where all the ESPN insiders for each team did a mock draft of the first round. And the Dolphins reporter, Marcel Louis-Jacques, picked, or Jacques, I failed French 3 straight years in high school, Jahdae Barron being the guy there. And look, basically just saying that with Barron and Will Johnson still on the board, they'd have an option, and this is an ideal spot to trade down. But Miami takes the speedy Jahdae Barron in this exercise. Johnson's ceiling may be high, but his recent string of injuries is hard to overlook for a team that needs a day one production from this pick. Barron won the Jim Thorpe Award as a college football's best defensive back last season, despite the fact that, a different defensive back won the Heisman, which was interesting. But that's beside the point. Shout out to Barron for winning the Jim Thorpe Award, not trying to take away from him at all. And he also ran a 4.39 second 40-yard dash, which will endear him to be a team that values speed a ton, as we know with them. So Barron fits in there. The Jets could trade down somewhere around this area and try to pick up Jahdae Barron or Will Johnson, walk away with an elite corner, something they've not been afraid to do, which is just take whatever the best player available is, so we could see what they do there, or target a different type of player. But we know they've been linked to Barron. We know they like Jahdae Barron, so this is why I'm bringing him up specifically here. Though there's a multitude of different names the Jets could target if they do opt to trade down in this NFL draft. So it's going to be interesting to see. And I mean, guys, we are 2 hours away from things really kicking off. So make sure to like this video, subscribe, turn on post notifications, and stay tuned for more draft content coming out of Jets Digest. Have a great day, guys. Let's go enjoy some NFL draft. Go Jets.